Okay, gamers, welcome back to more Geometry Dash, and today we're going to be playing some more Raid Shadow Legends. Okay, no, but actually, I've been wanting to make an editor tips and tricks video for a while because I always get questions about it, so yeah, let's just hop into it. Now, the first thing that I would like to show that I get asked all the time is how do you change the color of portals, and also this works for orbs too, so I guess I'll show both. Alright, so what you're going to do is you're going to click your orb or portal, you're going to assign it a group value, I'll give it 1, and then you're going to place a pulse trigger down, and wherever this trigger starts is where the portal is going to start changing the color, so I'll just leave it there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it change the color. I'll just make it black because that's the easiest to notice for showcase purposes. Next, what you're going to do is you're going to hit this group button right here. You're going to select main only, and then in group ID you're going to put the group that you assigned the object to, and then I'm just going to crank the hold time all the way up so that you can see it. And now, as you can see, once it passes this trigger, it is going to change black. And of course this also works for orbs too, so I'll put it on 1. Now the orb is black, and then finally, you can obviously do any color you want, so there's a nice shade of blue. So the next thing that I usually get asked is how do you change how fast things like gears and saws and other rotating objects spin, and this one's really easy. All you do is, I'll just demonstrate with this saw here, it works for all of these, it's the same exact process. So what you're going to do is you select it, you're going to hit edit special on the right hand side right here, and then what you're going to do is you can select custom, and this little box here allows you to adjust how many degrees per second the object is rotating. So if I want it to go slow, I'll make it like 30 for example, and now if I play the level, you can see that the saw rotates slowly. And finally, there's also this disable box. What that does is if you click it, it just makes it so it doesn't move at all. So now if I play it, there you go. Alright, next thing I want to show you is not something I get asked about all the time, but it's still something pretty cool to know, and that is how you make it so you're able to hit the same orb multiple times. And this is once again going to require the edit special button, so you're going to click that, and you're just going to hit allow multi-activate, hit OK, and now to demonstrate this I'll make it so that the orb follows the player to show that it is in fact being hit multiple times. So let's just go ahead and do that. So now I am God. Next, I'm going to just show you how to use all 4 of these. I know a lot of people know how to use most of them, if not all of them, but I still get questions sometimes, so, you know, let's just speed run this right here. Okay, first up is the D block. It lets the waves slide on top of solid objects if you place it on top of them. So if I do this. Okay, next up is the H block, which allows you to bounce on the ceiling of solid objects in the cube. So what you do is you just place it over top of your blocks and let the magic happen. Fun. And this can also allow for some pretty broken game mechanics such as this. Okay, next up is the S block. I put the mouse cam on so that it's easier to see how these next two actually work. But basically the S block just cancels a dash mid-air, so if I do this, it'll stop me even though I'm holding still. Alright, next up is the J block. This is the one that most people probably don't know how to use, and what it does is it cancels your hold after an orb. So usually, if I were to hold down after this black orb right here, I would just jump afterwards, like so. But what the J block allows is if you place it on the blocks that you hit after hitting the orb, even if you hold down, you are not going to jump unless you click again. So I'll show you. I have to click twice. So now I'm going to show you a few things about triggers that I know. I'm not going to show anything that I don't know how to do because, you know, I want to make sure I'm giving the best advice. But either way, I'm going to show you the touch trigger first because I think this one's pretty neat. And if we go into it here, what this allows you to do is either toggle something on or off with the click of your mouse. So basically how to use this is, we are first going to be needing an object. So let me just grab one here. Alright, so what you're going to do is you're going to assign your object a group value. We'll make it 1. And then we're going to put that group value inside of the trigger. And we're going to be ignoring these boxes down here as well as this one in the top right because they're not really too important or functional, at least for this trigger. These 3 are really the main ones, and what you're going to do is if you want this object to toggle off when you click the mouse, you're going to hit the toggle off box. And now, as you can see, if I play it, it toggled off whenever I clicked. So the next thing I want to go over, which I think is a lot more useful and also cool, is hold mode, which is going to make it so that the object is only toggled whenever I'm holding down the button. So whenever I click, it'll be off, but then when I release, it'll turn back on, like so. And then this, of course, also works for toggle on mode. You just have to make sure that the object is already toggled off to begin with, so we'll just toggle it off. The next trigger that I want to go over how to use is the animation trigger, because it's just another one that I know how to use, and you can do some pretty interesting stuff with it. So yeah, it's really simple. All it does is it takes these guys right here and it basically gives them animations. So I don't know if you've ever seen levels where like this thing will be asleep or something like that. That's what this trigger is doing. So I'll show you how to do that real quick. I guess we'll actually try it with this thing. I don't know, why not? So what you're going to do is you're going to assign it a group ID 1, and then you're going to put that ID into the trigger, and now there is going to be a number of animations that you're able to do. I actually forget how many different ones there are, but basically each number in this lower box right here corresponds to a different animation. So if I do 2 in this box, for example, this is going to do a thing when I pass the trigger. So it's very subtle, but you can kind of see it like closes its mouth on that one. And then if I do like 3, it kind of opens its mouth. So yeah, that's basically how this trigger works. And it is also useful for things like what I'm about to show you right now. Okay, now that's over, I'm going to show you how to use the count trigger. You may have seen this before in levels where you have to collect so many coins and then something will happen. And in this case, I want to make it so that once I collect all 3 of these coins right here, this wall will toggle off, and then it'll make it so that you're able to pass. So let's just get into it. First thing you're going to do, you're going to assign the item that you want to toggle off or on a group value. In this case, it's already on 1, so we'll just leave it at that. And then you're going to go into the count trigger. You're going to see that we have 3 different boxes here. It's quite intimidating. Don't worry. In target ID, this is going to be the item that you want to toggle on or off. So we'll put 1 in there because that's what we assigned the wall. And then on the left we have these 2 boxes right here. Basically, target count is exactly what it sounds like. It's how many coins you want to be collected before the thing toggles. So in this case it's 3. And then for item ID, this one, what this means is what ID the coins are assigned to. In this case, we can also do 1 because these are 2 separate things. So what we're going to do is, since we entered 1 for item ID, we're going to hit OK. We're going to select all 3 coins. We're going to hit the Edit Special button. We're going to select Pick Up Item. Ignore these 2 boxes on the right for now. And then in item ID, we're going to enter 1. And then that is it. Basically, this will now function. So as I will demonstrate, if you collect all 3, it toggles off. Here, I'll move it to the beginning here. And then if you collect only 2 coins, it does not toggle. So next, I'm going to be going over one of the extra boxes that were in the coins edit special menu, and then also how to display the count of how many coins have been collected. Now this one is really simple. All you're going to do is you're going to place down this thingy right here. It's like a 0, it's in the triggers menu. And this is actually going to be the counter that displays everything. So what you're going to do is you're going to hit edit special, and all you're going to do is assign whatever item ID the coins are to this counter, and then that's literally it. And just to make it easier to see when I play the level, I will make it move with the player. So now I have a count that is going to move with the player and demonstrate how many coins have been collected. Now there is an editor bug where it does not work if you play it in the editor, so you have to play it in normal mode, so I'll go ahead and show you that. And then one final thing that I would like to go over is, of course, if we go into these coins here, you'll notice that I don't know what this does up here exactly because I haven't had to mess with it before, but we have a subtract count button right here, and all this means is whenever you collect a coin, your count always starts at 0, and instead of going up, it'll go down if I select this. So whereas it goes up by 1 every time I collect a coin, it is now going to go down by 1. And what that means is, if I collect all 3 of these coins, the final value, instead of 3, is going to be -3. And what that basically means is, even if I collect all 3 of these coins now, this will not toggle off unless I go into the count trigger and I change the target count value to -3. And then this, of course, will also subtract the count from here. So now if I play it, so the next trigger we're going to talk about is the spawn trigger. This thing allows you to activate other triggers remotely in the level on a delay. So what that means is, after you pass the spawn trigger, if there is a delay on it, it will wait that long and then activate that trigger, and that's basically it. So as you can see here, I have a thing set up to where my address will move across the screen, and let's say we want it to happen after the level has ended. So what we do is we go into the move trigger, and we are going to basically make it spawn triggered by checking this box down here in the bottom left, and then we're going to assign this move trigger a group. So let's make it 2, for example, and then we're going to go into our spawn trigger over here and make it so that it activates group 2, which is the move trigger, and we can make it so that happens on a delay of, let's say, like 4 seconds. So now what's going to happen is, this is not going to move until after it passes the spawn trigger and 4 seconds have elapsed. Hey! Okay. So now that that's done and you know generally how a spawn trigger works, I'm now going to show you how to make a spawn loop. Basically what it means is you can make the same set of tasks or motions repeat over and over again infinitely. So how this works is, since spawn triggers are able to trigger other triggers, that also means they can trigger other spawn triggers. So I guess the best way to demonstrate this is just to show you. So let's say that I have this square right here, and I want this square to toggle on and off over and over again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some toggle triggers, right? I'm going to assign this a group. We'll make it 1, and I'm going to make it so that 1 toggles off and then back on again. Now obviously this is only going to repeat 1 time with this particular setup, so if I just pass it. So to make this happen multiple times over, we are going to make it so that this this group of triggers triggers this group of triggers, and vice versa. This group is going to trigger this group will trigger this group. It will create an infinite feedback loop of sorts, which will basically create the infinite repeating thing. So you're just going to assign each column a group value. So we'll do 2 and then 3. Now that that's done, we're going to make it so that 2 activates 3 with a delay of, let's say, 0.1 seconds, for example. And note the delay, you have to have a delay for this to actually work. And then we're going to make it so that group 3 activates group 2. Also on the same delay. You can do different delays if you want, but usually it's best to do the same delay. And after that, you're just going to highlight all 4, and you're going to make it so that they are spawn triggered and multi-triggered. The spawn triggered obviously makes it so that they're spawn triggered, and then multi-trigger is going to actually make it so that the same trigger is able to be reactivated over and over and over again, which makes this possible. So now all we need is we need to actually initiate the spawn loop, and to do that we're just going to activate one of the groups. It doesn't matter which one, so we're going to place a spawn trigger down. You don't have to do anything special for this, you just place it down and then put either 2 or 3 in it, or whatever group value you have assigned to your columns. And then that is it. It now flashes infinitely. How do you like them apples? And then here, I'll move it kind of like over this way so you can see it continue to flash after the level has been completed. And it will continue to do this forever. It will not stop. Alright, I'm almost done with this video, and these next 2 are really simple, so I'm going to try to be nice and quick about it. So I'm going to go over the stop trigger first, because this actually works really well with spawn loops, because obviously, like I was saying before, the spawn loop will never stop making this flash, and the stop trigger will actually allow us to, at a certain point, make it stop, because what this trigger does is, you can actually assign a set of triggers, a group value, so I'll assign these, whatever is available for, and then we can make it so that these triggers will stop working as soon as the stop trigger has been passed. So we're going to put 4 in the stop trigger, and that is all there is to it. So now, as you can see, it stops flashing. Alright, the next trigger I'm going to go over real quick is the on death trigger. This just makes it so that after the player has died, something will toggle on or off. So let's say after the player dies, we want my IP address to flash on the screen. So to do this, we're just going to make it so that this is moving with the player. That way, no matter where you die in the level, it will always be with you. And then we can go ahead and just shove the on death trigger at the beginning of the level, because that's where you're going to be using it most of the time. So now that this moves with the player, we can just basically enter group 1 into here. We're going to select activate group, and since it's already active, we're just going to make sure that it is toggled off. And now whenever I die, my IP address will flash on the screen. For the final thing I'm going to be going over in this video, I would like to talk about fading on objects, because it just seems like something that I think would be useful to know. So yeah, let's just hop into it. As you can see, I have built just a structure example right here for this demonstration, and what I'm referring to is, as you play the level, the objects fade in and out of the screen, as you may have noticed, and you're able to actually change how this behaves using all of these fancy looking things down here. These 2 are probably the most noticeable, so like if I just go ahead and do this, I will play the example and you will see how the blocks are going to kind of fade in and out of view. So basically, you can control how that works by placing down different kinds of these. You can just play around with it. So if I place a couple of these down, you'll see that we'll get a different effect happening. And then of course there's also the option to make it so that nothing fades in and out of view. And to do this, you just highlight all the structures that you do not want to fade in and out of view. You hit edit group, and then you're just going to check don't fade and don't enter. So now, as you can see, nothing happens. Very solid. Alright, anyways, that's about about it for this video. If you liked it or would like me to do more like it, please let me know. I thought this was pretty interesting. Yeah, I definitely have a lot more that I think I would like to share about the editor, but however, it was just too much to include in one video. So yeah, just let me know what your thoughts are, and I'll see you next time.